And it's not a torture rack that someone said it was a torture rack, which is a really, really strange thing to say. It's actually an MDF frame, multi-distribution frame, part of basically the telephone exchange, because that is now where you are standing.
Okay.
The whole room was entirely filled with equipment like that, and if you actually look at the floor, these white lines you can see would have been banks and banks of equipment. This whole room was filled with equipment. Because it's very important. Remember, this was the government, these were the people running the country. They needed to be able to communicate. If you could lock them in this box under the ground and cut them off from the outside world, you effectively neutralise them. So it's a very important room. This allowed them to maintain contact. It also contains the only piece of evidence that this place actually is a cabinet war room. At the back of that frame is a very small label, it's only an inch square, that says Cabinet War Room, CWR. It's the only physical proof this is the actual Cabinet War Room. Okay. The reason we know so much about this room, as I said, we actually had the telephonist came down on the tour about 5 or 6 years ago. The old lady, well into her late 80s, came down, did the tour, didn't say a word on the tour until the very end. She came and talked to me and said, I used to work here. And it's like, you need to come and talk to me, I know my best friend. And she came down, and her job was to test this exchange every week. Now, all she could tell us was about the main stairs, that corridor, and this room. Because she wasn't allowed to go anywhere else. All she could tell us about the corridor was it was full of doors. She didn't know what's behind the doors. And she knew, so she could describe this room, because she was here. She could describe the corridor. She didn't even know there was a lower level. She didn't need to know.
Did she say how long she'd worked here?
She was here all the way through the war, right up until they closed it in 43.
So she was part of the care and maintenance?
She was, and she had to come back. She was actually the official telephonist for the Cabinet War Room.
Yeah.
And she went with the Cabinet, but she had to come back here once a week just to test it out and then go back again.
Yeah.
And she moved to Anson as well, so she could describe Anson to us as well, because she was a telephonist for there as well. But the person we'd like to meet, and it's not going to happen now, is the maintenance man. Because he's the one who had access to every room in this bunker. But unfortunately, we never met who they were. We never will now. So, but they could tell us all sorts of things. So this was the exchange. So now we're going to move on now. So 1945, 1943, obviously this place care and maintenance because Anson opened. 1945, World War II ends. So do we need a backup cabinet war room now the war has ended? Of course we don't. This place effectively closed. And what the Ministry of Defence, or Ministry of War as they were in those days, walked away from it. They literally handed the entire site back to the GPO and said it's all yours. So what the GPO did was they were still working here. Remember during the war as well, they were doing their own work on the surface. They were doing communications work. These are very, very important stuff. Has anyone here been to Bletchley Park?
Yes.
Yeah.
Colossus computer, world's first programmable computer, cracked the Enigma code. It was built here. Not in Paddock, it was built on surface. The actual Colossus computer was built here by Tommy Flowers and his engineering team and then shipped to Bletchley Park where they used it to crack the code. That's why one of the roads out there is named Flowers Close. It's after Tommy Flowers and his team. They did a lot of engineering work here. So after the war, they actually inherited the rest of this site and they inherited this bunker. Now we know they used the upper level here because they used it for things like laboratory space and things like that. We don't know if they used the lower level or not. Getting into sort of the late 50s, early 60s now, they use this space for social area. Hence, we've got the very funky suspended ceilings, very 1960s with the black paint. Okay, they made this a social space. That's why the corridor outside is painted red, very 60s. Okay, so they had clubs. They had like a photography club who used some of the rooms for dark rooms. They had a recording studio down here. They had various social things down here. The area at the back is the recording studio. They built that wall, it's triple paned, and the walls are filled with sand to soundproof it. So that was a small recording studio. So they used it for that sort of thing. In around the sort of 70s, 77, the GPO left the site. They moved away, and Schweppes took over as a corporate headquarters. Now they only used Schweppes. They only used the main building, which is the one which is now the flats, the big mansion house building. Remember, this site was huge. There were loads. There was literally 40 or 50 buildings on this site. Most of them empty. This building was listed as a store, so they probably never even came down here and even realised this place was here. Okay, so they used the site for a little while, and then they moved away, and the site was sold. But before it was sold, and around about in the early 80s, this place was open and visited. we had the Ministry of Defence come down and had a look. Because what they were doing, they were looking for an alternative. They had a war room at Mill Hill, which was a nuclear bunker, which was called the London War Room at Mill Hill. It was on the surface, which was very, very damp. So they were looking for an alternative. They heard about this place, they obviously had files, they came here and had a look, and they found out what damp really meant. And also, it's not suitable as a nuclear bunker, it isn't strong enough, it's wrong construction. So they looked and went, no, it's no good, locked the doors and walked away. And that's pretty much how it stayed. Until Stadium Housing, or Network Homes as they're now known, bought the site. They were sold the site itself. They were going to develop the main mansion house building into luxury flats, is what they did. And they had to build social housing, which is the row houses that sits above this now. When they built this site, they then were told they had a large underground space under it, which they then found out was a very large bunker. They contacted a few people. By this time, the location and nature of Paddock had been released. We knew where it was now. We knew it was under Dollis Hill, and we knew what it was called. It wasn't secret anymore. So they opened up this space. We came down here in around about 2000, Subterranean Botanica. And when I came in here first, it was a very different place. It was pitch black, there was no lighting. Every room was filled with debris, every room. The corridors, everything was just full of broken furniture and rubbish. And the lower floor was flooded. It was flooded up to around about knee height on yourself. Pitch black, so exploring the entire place by fingertip and torch, in the dark, through knee-deep water, through piles of rubbish. Okay? Fantastic fun. Okay? But the reason we did it is because we knew what the place was. And we knew Paddock. So what Stadium did, they had an agreement, they had to open it twice a year. So they pumped the water out, cleared the debris, put the lights in, and let you find people come down and have a look around. They only have to do that for 5 years. That ran out in 2008. So for the last 10 years they've been doing it and they don't have to. So we have a very big thank you to Network Homes for still letting us come down here and show you people around. They don't have to do it. And that brings us up to date. So what we're going to do now, we're going to head out to the corridor, we're going to go and see one last room before we head up to the surface.